So, David, that was an interesting interview with our friend and author, Bill Wyman. His new book is called Bill Wyman's Chelsea from Medieval Village, the Cultural Capital. It is out now on Unicorn Books. David, didn't Bill used to play in a band?
Yeah, I guess he was into some sort of blues thing.
He was into this blues thing.
I don't remember the name of the group. There he is.
Yeah, he used to make records on his own. And of course, this is my favorite Bill Wyman album. But this is going to be broadcast live on Monday, June 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But of course, our interviews, all of our interviews live on in perpetuity on our podcast, Notes from an Artist podcast, which you can be potted at Apple, Amazon, Buzzsprout, Spotify, and wherever podcasts are potted. So, David, shall we? Let's get on with Mr.
I think we should get to it.
You know, Bill, David, is a very prolific writer. You've written Bill Wyman's Blues Odyssey, right? 2001.
Yeah, this is my 12th. This is my 12th book.
12th
yeah.
book. There's Bill Wyman's Treasure Islands. There's Bill's
History of the Blues.
History of the Blues. We'll get to that one. Bill Wyman Shoots Chagall, and by shoots he means photographs, not shoot. That was a good one. There's Bill Wyman's Scrapbook. There's The Stones' History in Cartoons, which is a fascinating look at how.
Yeah, that was fun to do.
That was a fun one.
I bet.
Now, Bill, David and I share your love for history. David has authored 18 books. I worked
beating me.
Yeah, you'll catch up. You've got time. I worked as a print and television journalist for 20 years, but don't hold that against me. We are all bass players, and I think our love of history.
Yeah, I can see one behind you.
That's my Mustang. I couldn't afford the one you were selling, so I got one at 30th Street Guitars in Manhattan. But I think our love of history is born to the fact that the bass instrument is the foundation of music, and history is the foundation of society. And society needs historians. We can't go forward unless we know where we come from. And this Chelsea book, I think, to fully appreciate and experience Chelsea, you need to look at how Chelsea evolved. Was that your inspiration for writing the book?
No, my inspiration was my first idea was to do a book on London.
Okay.
Walk the street. And then I suddenly realized that it would be Encyclopedia Britannica. You know, it'd be just too much. So I just focused on Chelsea then. But that took me about 4 years because I decided to just walk the streets and sort of take photos of anything that was unusual, you know, out of the ordinary. And then I did that. I walked about 70 streets of Chelsea, every street, and just photographed 1,800 photos, and then worked on the history of every street, who lived in what streets, you know, what house, who lived there, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I built it over 2 years then, after taking photos on and off for about 5 or 6 years before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, you express your love for Chelsea in the first paragraph of the book. And of course, it's divided into several sections. You have.
Oh, you've got the book. All right, that's good.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Got it right here. Clem sent me a copy. Sent us a copy.
And we actually read the books that we get. Isn't that amazing?
Well, I think it's unusual.
Yes, it is. But it's divided into several sections. It's miscellany, which puts the book into historical context or the content. The itineraries, which subdivide into history, art, music, and fashion. And then the Chelsea streets, as you mentioned, just absolutely fascinating. And
all the famous, all the famous people that lived in Chelsea. And then there's all the famous houses and buildings from way back.
Well, that was one of the things that really blew my mind. Some of the greatest minds of the last 10 centuries lived in Chelsea. Thomas More, Henry James, it's just fascinating to see all those people.
Yeah, and what's it? Bram Stoker, and
right,
who wrote? Well, you know him, and there's everybody.
Now, during your time in Chelsea, did artists go there because it was affordable? Like, for example, David and I in New York City, Greenwich Village was affordable.
Yeah,
That's why
exactly.
artists congregated there. And of course, in Greenwich Village, we depended on the wealthy uptown New Yorkers to come and listen to jazz and buy art. Was that the similar situation for you?
Well, it is in a way, isn't it?
Mhm.
It was, you know, I regard it as one of the two villages in London.
Mhm.
You know, it's all part of the same, you know, town, but it's more it got more of a village feel about it. And there's another village called Dulwich,
Mhm.
where sometimes you even have to pay a toll to go through certain roads, you know, because they're private. And so I think of those two as the villages in London. And what they loved about Chelsea was it was by the water, it was out of the way. They could go there like just for the day, really. They could go on the boat up the Thames. And so people started to go just for the days and all that. And then they had entertainment here and all kinds of stuff, as you would read in the book.
Right.
And then famous people started to actually have their houses here, like Thomas More, like Henry VIII,
Right.
and so on. And then you find that all the very famous families that started to live here, streets are named after them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they are, and buildings and all that. You know, it's amazing when you start getting into it. And I get fed up of walking the streets and seeing people walking along with their heads down, looking at the ground or on their phones. You know, and nobody looks at these wonderful buildings and these, you know, and they do it all over London as well, because London's an amazing city and it's full of parks and greenery in the streets, trees, squares, where it's all greenery, you know, and then you got the river, and it's just there's no better place. And that's why I decided to live here in 1982 when I came back from being exiled, you know, tax exile in France.
Right.